foster belonging for college students at urban serving universities.
So yeah, I'm Ty Rodriguez,
I'm Giselle Gomez.
and our presentation is how the student involvement experiences foster belonging for college students at an urban serving university. So why explore belonging? Well, this is a great question. First of all, let's break down what belonging is. Belonging is your overall feeling of self and your significance to others within a community or group. So research over the last decade has increased on belonging on college campuses, and research has found that emerging adulthood is a time of vulnerability and heightened stress, and things that can be affected are academic achievement, overall well-being, and then just sense of community, sense of belonging. This is important to UW-Tacoma specifically because first-gen students make up 53% of the student body at UW-Tacoma, and then first-gen students often experience greater obstacles when navigating a higher education. So in this study, we seek to understand the experiences of belonging at urban serving university just like UW-Tacoma with a non-traditional student body and also including the commuter students as well. As students ourselves, we have unique experiences in this, especially that, since we've also faced challenges with student engagement, and this motivated us more to get a more in-depth analysis of the sense of belonging on campus, but also look at how other students are facing barriers related to this. So in this study, we specifically examined how student events and clubs may be associated with fostering a sense of belonging on our campus. So for our methods, from fall quarter 2025, we initially started off as a photo voice group project, and then in spring quarter 2026, we want to do a more in-depth systematic approach with our professor, Dr. Hirschberg. So what we did is we conducted participant observations at 8 different campus events, and then we did multiple interviews with student participants and staff members. These student participants, we had 11, or the student participants were current undergraduate students at UW-Tacoma between the ages of 18 and 32, and then same with the staff members, I mean, not the same ages, but we had 11 students and then 3 student leaders and 2 staff members. We wanted to highlight the 3 student leaders and the 2 staff members due to their positionality and the insight that they could give us on what they think is hindering the sense of belonging on campus, but what's also being done currently to create a better sense of belonging on campus. And then participants were recruited at these events or through outreach, either email or just word of mouth. And then the data collection was from fall of 2025 to spring 2026, where we conducted semi-structured qualitative interviews to get a better understanding of our participants and their experiences of events and activities on campus. And then we also allowed for these participants to elaborate and share stories more in depth to be able, with the potential of adding a dimension to a sense of belonging.
With that being said, participant responses were analyzed through the thematic analysis process, and then we triangulate our findings across participant categories to assess if there are any prevalent codes among different participant categories. Essentially, the thematic analysis is a 6-step process. Phase 1 is just generalizing ourselves with our data. This is going through our interviews and accurately transcribing them onto a different document. Phase 2 is then generating the first initial codes. So we're focusing on codes and we're taking them and applying them to our data set. Codes found in this stage are the most significant emotions, opinions, thoughts that participants had on their sense of belonging or barriers that would inhibit that. Codes that were prevalent in this session were resources, food, communication, campus environment, advertisement, outreach opportunities, and scheduling conflicts. From then on, we move on to phase 3, the development of themes. Then we start to review our codes in relation to participant excerpts and keeping our research question in mind. We start to redefine our codes and identify if any codes overlap that can be grouped into themes. We also use a matrix table to help us organize our data, but to also see, visually represent which themes are the most frequent and salient among different participant categories. Phase 4 and 5 are reviewing and defining themes, and phase 6 is presenting our data. We do want to acknowledge that we are in that ongoing process of going back to our codes, making themes. So with that being said, we are still in the process of finishing our thematic analysis. Here we have our findings. We have our matrix table that gives us our different codes along with the definition. I do want to emphasize the definitions a little bit so we're on the same page. Resources is the amount of funding available to clubs and the overall presence of faculty present at social events. Food insecurity refers to the availability of food determined the success rate of student retention and turnout. Communication is the quality to connection in social events were brought about by the clear disconnect between the institution, the faculty, and the student body, inhibited success indifferent at all levels. Environmental influences is the general culture among UWT that creates or takes away opportunity for practice of student involvement and the student overall sense of belonging. Advertisement outreach, the dearth of known resources available that promote the existing and new clubs and social events on campus and has impacted the outreach opportunities of those leading events. And scheduling conflicts, the limited student and faculty availability due to internal and external factors and responsibilities that impede them to be able to participate on campus events. Do want to highlight that resources, communication, and advertisement outreach was the most salient within student leaders and UW staff members, and food insecurity, environmental influences, and scheduling conflicts was the most salient within student participants. Here we have a few excerpts. I'm not going to go through all, but if you would like to go back to them at the end, we have time to file. Food insecurity, like I said, was the most prevalent among students, the student body. A student said that the biggest thing on campus that gets people to go events is food, and if people can provide food, can provide a meal for students to go and participate in events, they're more likely to stay there longer because they don't have to think about when or what they're going to eat. Also have environmental influences, advertisement outreach. I do want to highlight that a student came up to one of our student leaders and asked them how they make their environment so welcoming. They expressed that they don't treat it like a business, but it's more of that family relationship. They joke around with each other and allow mentors and students equal to have that family relationship so it's not so formal. And scheduling conflicts, again, was one of those big codes that came up. A student said, I think school needs to be better with engagement advertisements. We have a lot of good numbers, but most of those students are students who live on campus. And a lot of students don't. So when I talk to them about problems, even though we do have clubs on campus, that's apart from the separate issue, because there's commuters that just go home, that go to school and they go home. And I think we need to have a better way to have commuters stay on campus instead of going directly home. So with that being said, our findings thus far have shown a positive relationship between student involvement opportunities on campus and how they can enhance their overall sense of belonging in a higher education system such as UW-Tacoma. There was a noted, something that we noticed that was really prevalent, that students seek that peer-to-peer connection that is overly inhibited by the lack of socialization that took within campus. So this relates back to earlier research stressing the importance of building that friendship among peers and how it enhances your sense of mattering on the environment. There was also big highlights within student leader too, but also across different participants that our UW-Tacoma environment can be very passive at times. And this was brought about because it's a commuter campus. So this inhibits their sense of belonging and network building in the development of their social capital more broadly. It's important to amplify opportunities for student involvement activities such as clubs and social events that strengthen the quality of interactions among peers on the environment and how this can enhance the experiences of commuter students as well. With that being said, there is a plan in the near 20 to 25, not so near years, for UW-Tacoma to have a master plan of having a 24/7 environment, increasing enrollment to 10,000 students and doubling campus population, guiding how they grow, build and serve their community. But we do want to express that although the study shows that involvement opportunities do matter and they are important for UW-Tacoma, the UW-Tacoma experience, many opportunities are still a privilege to only a group of participants, a group of individuals, group of students, and they do not necessarily capture the commuter student experience. Taking this, we need future research and initiatives at UW-Tacoma to take this into consideration if they're really trying to make an effort to have an environment that is welcoming to all individuals.
Let's open it up for questions, please.
Considering that it is mostly a commuter campus, what are some ideas that you have for opening it up to a more welcoming environment for students to stay on campus, like you mentioned?
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm a commuter student but also having, I think, more of accommodation during our schedule for students who are on campus all day and have back-to-back classes. It can be really hard to just be like, oh, I'm gonna go to this event, I really want to, but do I have to do homework? Do I have to think about, going to get some gas before I hit the road? So I think like trying to figure out if maybe Thursday 6 p.m. activities are not the most, successful, right? Really trying to look what students are going to these events and what are we missing would be the most important, not just looking at, oh, there's 20 students that are here, great, but more looking at the statistics in between students.
Do you think that like the current RSO and like event food budget is sufficient as it stands right now?
I would say no. We actually talked to one of the student leaders about this. So I think there's around 50 to 80 clubs within our campus, but then they all get like $450 each. But then a lot of the people that do lead these clubs talk about funding still being somewhat of an issue, or just advertisement. So it's like they kind of gotta balance between how are they gonna spend that money. Is it gonna be towards advertisement? And if that's so, it takes away from like potentially adding either like more food or just like equipment to like more the sport clubs. So it's just kind of like a give and pull situation.
You can do one more?
Are you gonna have an opportunity to share your results with any of the staff at U of Tacoma to help shape their direction?
We're trying to get our paper published. We're currently in the final drafting stage, trying to get it specifically towards U of Tacoma audiences. So that's the efforts with Dr. Hirschberg right now to finalize our paper, get it published so we can have an actual presentation in front of U of Tacoma board. And,
I'm curious, do you guys think that increased or improved student housing is a good solution or something else entirely?
Yeah, I think it could be a good solution, but also another big thing is like that wasn't highlighted on here is parking, and like parking is very like minimal at U of Tacoma specifically. So I think it does really affect a lot of commuter students as when we try to find parking, it's either already overtaken or it's just like you gotta park like 6 blocks up the hill, and it's just this long walk, and you really don't want to spend time on campus and walking up a hill at night in Tacoma, downtown Tacoma. So yeah.
And safety, like majority of the cars, regardless if they're close to campus or not, you get broken into. So it's just like, I don't know if I wanna drive 2 hours and get my car broken into and delayed, am I gonna be able to get home, so, yeah. And quickly, just had some limitations, and just how we assess validity, but we practiced, with Dr. Hirschberg, we have continuously worked with our auditor, Dr. Hirschberg, who experiences doing research with undergraduate student population,